And I was getting my stuff together and walked out in the hallway, and he looked at me and he slapped me as hard as he could.
Hollywood just lost its breath. Meryl Streep, now 76, broke her own code of silence and revealed the 6 actors who drove her up the wall. One, she said, was a master manipulator, and another was beyond unbearable. In a world where stars smile through grinding teeth, her bluntness felt like an earthquake. Kevin Kline. The storm between Streep and Kevin Kline during Sophie's Choice is one of film's best-kept secrets. Audiences saw tenderness and raw heartbreak, never guessing quiet friction that pulsed behind every frame. Director Alan Pakula thought 2 theater giants would spark magic together. Streep arrived with her Yale discipline, while Kline brought Shakespearean swagger and razor-sharp improv. Pakula pictured perfect harmony, yet rehearsals lit the first fuse. Streep attacked Sophie's story like a historian piecing together shattered lives. She listened to survivor recordings, practiced Polish and German accents, and studied trauma science until dawn. Every gesture had to echo someone who lived through Auschwitz. Kline charged in with an opposite energy. He trusted instinct, surprise, and the electricity of the moment. Lines were invitations to wander, and he loved tossing new words into the air to see where they landed. The clash stayed polite, but tense. During one rehearsal, Kline asked, "Are you sure the audience will care more about those Polish vowel sounds and what Sophie feels?" The room froze. To Streep, voice and emotion were chained together, not rivals. Her accent carried Sophie's grief, her exile, her whole identity. From that point, the air thickened. Pakula set up shots that kept their methods from colliding head-on, yet the chill never thawed. Crew whispered about hushed conversations, stiff smiles, and swift exits once cut rang out. Ironically, the strain charged the final performances with real electricity. Sophie's trembling gentleness and Nathan's erupting rage felt authentic, because the actors were living a quieter version of that duel. The final wound opened after filming. In an interview, Kline called Streep's approach academic. He likely meant discipline, but she heard dismissal. Months of research had never been mere homework to her. It was emotional survival. The film went on to win awards, and Streep's Oscar remains legendary. Yet the partnership was finished. At later ceremonies, she offered only cool nods in his direction, and decades have passed without a second collaboration. Jeremy Irons. If the battle with Kline was hot, the clash with Jeremy Irons was icy and intellectual. Their tension was less shouting match and more chess game, but the stakes felt just as high. Producers believed 2 classically trained titans would share a secret language on set. Streep polished her craft at Yale. Irons honed his voice and poise at Bristol Old Vic. On paper, it looked like a match made in art house heaven. Reality cut that dream to pieces. Irons viewed acting as sculpture. He favored smooth lines, careful diction, and the power of suggestion. Emotion, in his mind, should flicker under the surface like fire behind frosted glass. Streep walked a different road. She treated characters like living souls buried in the earth. To honor them, she dug into diaries, news archives, and personal memories until truth bled through every glance. Their early rehearsals turned into silent duels. Streep chased spontaneous tears, while Irons answered with polished stillness. When she stepped closer, seeking warmth, he retreated into elegant coolness. Crew members felt the frost. Between takes, the pair drifted to opposite corners. Scripts clutched like shields. A simple greeting carried enough tension to crack stone. The mood darkened when Irons remarked that Streep's accent work might show off technique more than heart. She heard a strike not just at her skill, but at her belief that language shapes pain and history. An accent, to her, was never decoration. It was a wound that speaks. No huge argument erupted, yet every shared scene turned into a tug-of-war over truth. Viewers later praised the chemistry. Unaware it was born from uneasy distance instead of friendship. Film lovers once imagined future pairings where their opposite styles could ignite the screen again. That dream faded fast. Respect remained, but warmth never formed, and the 2 stars have steered clear of each other ever since. Some conflicts explode in tabloid headlines. Others hum beneath perfect performances. Streep's candid confession finally pulls back the curtain, and the revelations are as riveting as any script. Stay tuned, because the remaining 4 names on her dreaded list promise even more drama. Buckle up, because the next names on Meryl Streep's no-go list will leave you gasping. Alec Baldwin. The set of It's Complicated looked dreamy on camera, yet off camera, 2 very different storms brewed at once. Nancy Meyers hoped Meryl Streep and Alec Baldwin would glide through clever lines with effortless spark, dazzling viewers with grown-up charm. On paper, that mix seemed perfect, yet from the first rehearsal, sparks flew in ways no one expected. Streep stepped in like a surgeon, ready for a delicate operation. She pulled Jane Adler apart piece by piece, asking why the character laughs, why she cries, and how her body moves when regret sneaks in. She even timed how long Jane should hold a spoon before tasting soup, just so the gesture felt honest. Baldwin arrived with a twinkle in his eye and the energy of live comedy. He lived for the thrill of surprise. Every take felt like a brand new ride because he tossed in fresh jokes, swapped words, and changed gestures on the fly. The clash became clear during the kitchen scene. The script called for quiet tension as Jane admits she still has feelings for her ex. Streep built the mood carefully, counting heartbeats between lines. Midway through, Baldwin cracked a sudden joke, lifting the tension like a balloon. Crew members laughed, yet Streep's pulse jumped because her slow burn had burst. After the director yelled, "Cut," the room turned still. Streep asked for another take so she could rebuild the moment, her tone polite yet firm. Baldwin shrugged, happy to try again, but moments later he riffed a different line, and the careful rhythm vanished a second time. By week 2, Whisper Networks buzzed. Lighting tech spoke of the Baldwin breeze, while script supervisors mentioned the Streep blueprint, and both teams wondered if the 2 styles could ever meet in the middle. Streep requested extra rehearsal, not out of fear, but to find new ways to anchor her emotional map, while Baldwin surfed improvisation. Some crew felt stuck between thunderclouds, watching 2 masters protect their craft. Despite tension, the final cut radiates fun. Viewers see flirty banter and heartache wrapped in soft Californian sunsets. They never see the silent chess game that unfolded between takes. One producer nicknamed it a constant tug-of-war in silk gloves. When press tours ended, the pair moved on without bitterness, yet without bonding. Interviews stayed polite, red carpet hugs brief, and no new script has drawn them together since. Crew members later reflected on the clash in private interviews. A lighting technician noted that every time Baldwin improvised, he had to shuffle lamps because blocking changed on a dime. Continuity staff stocked extra batteries, since takes multiplied whenever the mood shifted. Even catering felt the ripple. Timing hot meals became guesswork, while scenes stretched far beyond schedule. A script in turn revealed that Streep rarely complained aloud. Instead, she scribbled notes in the margins, tiny arrows showing how to pivot if Baldwin tossed in an unexpected punchline. Those pages looked like battle plans for emotional warfare, proof of how fiercely she guarded the inner life of every role. After wrap party day came, Streep raised a toast of teamwork, then quietly left before dessert. Baldwin cracked jokes until midnight, charming grips and drivers, yet some noticed his eyes drift toward the exit, as if wondering whether the iciness would ever thaw. Jack Nicholson. The story with Jack Nicholson never reached cameras, yet it may be even colder. In the late 70s, studios dreamed of pairing Streep and Nicholson in weighty dramas. Agents buzzed, early lunches were booked, and budgets penciled in numbers big enough to make headlines. Then the first creative meeting happened, and hopes collapsed like wet cardboard. Streep walked in with folders packed with research, questions about dialect coaches, and lists of books to read. She spoke of honoring real people's pain and vanishing the characters so deeply that audiences would forget Meryl ever existed. Nicholson leaned back, grin wide, sunglasses resting on his head. He spoke about about electric moments that cannot be planned. He believes great acting is raw and immediate, a flash of lightning you ride, not a map you follow. One witness later shared that the room felt like 2 different climates, winter meeting summer. Streep asked about the historical trauma driving the character, while Nicholson joked about finding the right hat to wear on day 1. Casting director Juliet Taylor later summed it up. Jack represents everything Meryl considers wrong with modern stardom. He is more interested in being Jack Nicholson than disappearing into a role which offends her view of serious craft. Award nights showed the crack under polite nods. Cameras caught stiff smiles, never warm embraces. Producers soon learned that pitching a Streep-Nicholson project was pointless. The gap widened in the 90s when Nicholson mocked extensive research during an interview, calling it intellectual masturbation that blocks honest feeling. He never used her name, yet nearly every viewer connected the dots. Streep heard the jab and felt her stomach twist. To her, months of study are an act of respect, not ego, and she cannot stand the idea that hard work equals fakery. Industry insiders now speak of their rift as the quietest feud in Hollywood. No yelling, no sharp tweets, only decades of careful distance. At film festivals, they float to the same halls like planets in opposing orbits, always lit by flashbulbs, never sharing the same gravity. Film scholars sometimes debate which lost scripts might become classics. One favorite what-if pairs them in a political thriller about whistleblowers. Another imagines them as combative siblings fighting over a family ranch. Professors use these thought experiments to remind students that talent alone cannot guarantee harmony. Their tale also warns young performers that style clashes are inevitable. The art lies in knowing whether to bend or step away. Streep bent during It's Complicated because she could still reach truthful emotion. She stepped away from Nicholson because she felt the truth would drown. That decision turned into a lifelong boundary and an unspoken chapter in cinema lore. The next names on Meryl Streep's blacklist might just shock Hollywood to its core. Gwyneth Paltrow. When Gwyneth Paltrow shot to stardom in the 1990s, Hollywood adored her effortless charm and glamorous appeal. But quietly behind the scenes, Meryl Streep watched her rise with deep frustration and worry, seeing not a dazzling new talent, but proof of everything she believed was wrong with modern celebrity culture. Paltrow was Hollywood royalty from birth. The daughter of actress Blythe Danner and producer Bruce Paltrow, she had opened doors and golden opportunities few newcomers could ever dream of. To audiences, she was elegant, graceful, a natural star. Yet to Streep, who'd spent decades grinding her way to the top with obsessive preparation, it felt deeply unfair. What troubled Meryl wasn't Gwyneth's beauty or connections, revealed an industry insider who worked closely with both women. She saw someone who made more by luck and charm than through real, disciplined hard work. Things hit a boiling point at the 1999 Oscars, when Paltrow won Best Actress for Shakespeare in Love. Many critics called her performance charming, but then compared to Streep's deeply demanding and nuanced role in One True Thing. Privately, Streep described the whole race bitterly as a marketing contest disguised as an honor, hinting her disappointment was about more than losing. It was about Hollywood's shifting values. Streep never publicly attacked Paltrow directly, but her silence spoke volumes. In interviews afterward, she lamented that popularity had replaced real preparation as Hollywood's new standard. When reporters asked her about younger actresses, Streep carefully praised those who shared her intense dedication. Cate Blanchett, Amy Adams, Jessica Chastain, while notably refusing to even mention Gwyneth's name. Publicly, the pair smiled stiffly at award ceremonies, their polite conversations kept short. Behind those fake smiles, however, lay deep ideological tension. Streep represented the old-school belief that acting was a sacred responsibility built through tireless dedication, while Paltrow symbolized a new Hollywood, where image, brand, and charisma mattered more than the craft itself. The tension between them wasn't personal. It was generational. A silent war never fought openly, but understood by everyone who knows how Hollywood really works. To this day, the divide remains painfully wide. Streep's meticulous artistry on one side, Paltrow's polished celebrity brand on the other, two entirely separate worlds in the same glittering industry. Dustin Hoffman. But if Gwyneth represented a clash of generations, Dustin Hoffman embodied a battle of acting philosophies, one that exploded behind the scenes of their Oscar-winning drama, Kramer vs. Kramer. Though the film went on to capture 5 Oscars, including Best Picture, behind the camera things quickly became intense. Streep's disciplined theater training taught her to approach every role with careful precision. She built her character Joanna Kramer with intense psychological study. Every pause, every gesture carefully planned. Hoffman, however, was a totally different story. Trained as a hardcore method actor, Hoffman threw himself deep into every scene, even blurring lines between acting and reality. His belief was simple. True emotion can't be rehearsed, only discovered spontaneously. On set, their opposite styles immediately clashed. Without warning, Hoffman would improvise scenes, often shocking Streep with unpredictable choices. During one notorious take, he even slapped her without any advance notice, shocking everyone and leaving Streep feeling betrayed and deeply uncomfortable. To her, Hoffman had crossed a line, not just personally but professionally. Cinematographer Nestor Almendros described their contrast vividly. Meryl acts like a precision instrument, each movement intentional. Dustin's approach is like jazz improvisation, free-flowing, unpredictable. The tension was intense yet electric, filling the film with powerful authenticity. But behind the camera, director Robert Benton struggled to keep the peace between his two leads. What audiences saw as gripping drama, courtroom arguments, heated exchanges, was rooted in real tension. Lines like, "You just married the wrong person, that's all," and "I tried," weren't simply scripted dialogue. They reflected real friction between two people barely able to stand each other. The filming process scarred Streep deeply. Later, she described the experience as professionally productive but personally intolerable. Afterward, she quietly vowed never to work with Hoffman again and kept guarded silence when asked about that painful chapter of her career. Even though their film triumphed, earning Oscars and acclaim, it left permanent emotional marks. Two brilliant actors whose talent collided so violently it created cinematic gold, but at a painful personal price. Now you've seen Hollywood's biggest secret feuds through the eyes of one of its greatest stars. What do you think about the actors Meryl Streep just couldn't stand? Let us know in the comment section below. And remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you next time. 2 of 2. Ask ChatGPT.